The invitation arrived 3 months before the wedding. Ivory cardstock with raised gold lettering, my sister's name embossed across the top in elegant script. Jessica Marie Carter requests the honor of your presence. No and family. No +1 for me, though I'd been with Mark for 2 years. Just my name, alone, on a single line. I ran my finger over the lettering and felt the quality of the paper. Premium stock, probably 120-pound weight, cotton blend. The kind of invitation that cost $8 each, minimum. For 200 guests, that was $1,600 just on paper rectangles people would throw away. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Did you get it? Isn't it gorgeous? Exactly what I wanted. I typed back. Beautiful. Congratulations again. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Listen, about the bridal party. I know we talked about you being a bridesmaid, but Tiffany really wanted her cousin in. And with Madison and Amber, that makes 4, which is the perfect number. You understand, right? It's nothing personal. You'll still be at the ceremony. Front row, probably. Probably. I stared at the word. Of course, I typed. Whatever makes your day perfect. You're the best. Oh, and the rehearsal dinner is at the Ashford estate. Ever heard of it? It's this insane venue, like something from a magazine. Mom's treating. Can't wait for you to see it. The Ashford estate. I knew it well. I'd approved the marble restoration in the grand foyer last spring. The chandelier installation took 6 weeks and cost more than most people's cars. The garden terracing was my design, inspired by Italian villas I'd studied during my architecture degree. I'd purchased the property 4 years ago, when I was 28 and everyone thought I was crazy. A crumbling 1920s mansion on 12 acres, zoned for commercial use, structural issues, nightmare permits. My family didn't know. They didn't know about any of my properties, actually. 3 venues, 2 restaurants, 1 boutique hotel, 7 years of 18-hour days, silent partnerships, and keeping my mouth shut at family dinners while Jessica talked about her marketing job and Mom praised her stability. Some things you keep private, not because you're ashamed, but because you want to see who treats you with respect when they think you have nothing, versus who treats you like an ATM when they know you have everything. Can't wait, I replied. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a masterclass in small humiliations. Jessica sent a group text to the bridesmaids about dress fittings. I wasn't included, but it came to the family thread by mistake. Oops, she wrote when I pointed it out. That was just for the wedding party. But you'll look great in whatever you wear. Maybe something navy? It photographs well. Mom called the next day. Sarah, honey, you're not upset about the bridesmaid thing, are you? I was sitting in my office, reviewing contracts for a new property acquisition. Through the window, I could see the grounds crew maintaining the gardens at the Ashford estate. No, Mom. I'm fine. It's just that Jessica's friends are all so accomplished. Madison works in finance, Amber's at a law firm. You know how it is. The photos need to look cohesive, and I don't fit the aesthetic. Don't be dramatic. You have a job. You're doing fine. It's just that this is Jessica's day and she wants everything perfect. You can support her without being in the spotlight, can't you? I thought about the deposit Jessica had put down on the Ashford estate. $5,000, non-refundable. The balance due was $48,000 for the full weekend, including the rehearsal dinner, ceremony, and reception. Staff, catering, florals, the works. I can support her, I said. Good girl. Oh, and she needs your final meal selection for the rehearsal dinner by Friday. There are 3 options. Choose the chicken, honey. The steak is $20 more per plate. And you know money's been tight. Money had been tight my entire childhood. Dad's construction business went under when I was 12. We lost the house, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. Jessica got the bedroom. I got the pull-out couch in the living room for 6 years. Mom worked 2 jobs. Dad drove trucks cross-country, gone weeks at a time. Jessica was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect college experience funded by scholarships and our parents scraping together every spare dollar. I worked full-time through community college, transferred to state school, graduated with a business degree and a chip on my shoulder the size of Texas. Now Jessica made $60,000 a year and lived in a trendy apartment downtown. I owned 7 properties worth a combined $42 million, but I still got told to order the chicken to save money. I'll order the chicken, I said. Friday night, Mark and I drove to Jessica's apartment for the rehearsal dinner planning meeting. Jessica had invited the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, both sets of parents, and the wedding coordinator. The apartment was exactly what you'd expect: exposed brick, floating shelves, a gallery wall of Jessica's accomplishments, college diploma, young professional awards, photos of her and her fiancé Bradley at various scenic locations. Bradley came from money. Real money. His parents owned a chain of car dealerships across the South. The wedding was his parents' gift to the couple. Jessica had been very clear about that in every conversation for the past year. Sarah. Jessica opened the door in a white silk romper and full makeup. She air-kissed near my cheeks without making contact. And Mark. You made it. Mark was a contractor I'd met on a job site. He knew what I did. He was one of maybe 5 people who did. Wouldn't miss it, he said easily. Inside, the living room was packed. The bridesmaids clustered on the couch, wine glasses in hand, already laughing at inside jokes. Bradley's groomsmen stood by the kitchen island, beers in hand. Mom and Dad sat on folding chairs someone had brought in. Bradley's parents, Richard and Patricia, occupied the 2 accent chairs like visiting royalty. Everyone. This is my sister, Sarah, Jessica announced. The bridesmaids glanced over with polite disinterest. She's going to be in the audience, cheering us on. Not even a reading, one of the bridesmaids asked. We're keeping the ceremony tight, Jessica said. Plus, Sarah's not really a public speaking person. Are you, sis? I'd given the keynote address at a hospitality industry conference last month. 1,200 people. Standing ovation. Not really my thing, I agreed. The wedding coordinator, Michelle, stood and pulled out a massive binder. Let's go over the timeline for Friday night. The rehearsal dinner will be at the Ashford estate, starting at 6 p.m., wedding party and immediate family only. Plus a few close friends, Jessica added. Bradley's college roommate and his wife. My sorority sisters. Michelle made a note. So we're looking at approximately 60 guests. 65, Jessica said. I sent you the updated list. I saw Michelle's jaw tighten slightly. The contract was for 50. Anything over that is an additional charge. Jessica waved her hand. It'll be fine. It's not like they're going to turn us away at the door. Actually, they would. I'd specifically trained my event staff to enforce capacity limits and contract terms, fire code, insurance liability, and basic professionalism. The seating arrangement, Michelle continued, flipping pages. She pulled out a diagram. Head table for the wedding party and parents. Then tables by relationship. Bradley's family, Jessica's family, college friends, work friends. Where's Sarah sitting? Mom asked. Michelle scanned the chart. Table 8. With the younger cousins and Bradley's nephew. The kids' table. I was 32 years old with a master's degree and a real estate portfolio that would make most people's eyes water, and I was assigned to the kids' table. Perfect, I said before anyone could react. I love kids. Mark squeezed my hand. He knew. He always knew. Great. Jessica beamed. So glad you're flexible. The thing is, Sarah, the head tables and first few tables are really for the people in the photos and the ones who've been part of our journey, you know? Plus, Bradley's nephew is 14. You can help keep an eye on him. I was being demoted from sister to babysitter. The menu, Michelle said. The Ashford estate has 3 options: filet mignon, salmon, or chicken. Jessica, you and Bradley will taste test next week and select one option for everyone, or you can do a dual entree for an upcharge. Everyone gets the same thing. Patricia, Bradley's mother, looked appalled. That seems rather limiting. It's how most venues operate, Michelle explained. Though the Ashford estate does offer premium upgrades. The steak is gorgeous, Jessica said. I saw photos. But it's like $70 a plate. She glanced at her parents. We were thinking chicken. It's elegant but more budget conscious. For my son's rehearsal dinner? Patricia's voice could have frozen nitrogen. Absolutely not. We'll do the steak. It's our treat. Mom's face went red. We can't let you pay for everything. You're handling the ceremony florals, Patricia said in a tone that suggested the florals were a consolation prize. Let us manage the dinner. Dad hadn't said a word. He sat there in his sport coat from Kohl's, 20 years old, holding his beer like a life raft. Sarah, you'll have the chicken, Mom said suddenly. Since you're at the kids' table anyway, and you mentioned wanting to watch your budget. Every head turned toward me. The bridesmaids looked sympathetic in that condescending way people do when they feel superior. Bradley's groomsmen looked uncomfortable. Mark's hand tightened on mine. I never said that, I said quietly. Well, you're always talking about saving money and being practical, Mom said. And it's $25 difference per plate. That adds up. It adds up to $25, I said. Once. Sarah, don't make a scene, Jessica said. If you want the steak, order the steak. God. So sensitive. The thing was, I didn't care about the steak. I'd eaten at the Ashford estate 100 times, tested every menu item personally. The chicken was actually better than the steak in my opinion. Chef Andre made this lemon herb reduction that was incredible. I cared that my mother just announced to 65 people, including my sister's wealthy in-laws, that I was too poor to afford a $70 dinner at my only sister's wedding events. Chicken's great, I said. I love chicken. Michelle made a note and moved on. They discussed flowers. They discussed music. They discussed the photo timeline and the signature cocktail and the party favors. I sat on a folding chair against the wall and said nothing. When the meeting ended, people filtered out in groups. The bridesmaids left together, already making plans to meet for mimosas tomorrow. Bradley's parents departed with barely a goodbye. Mark went to get the car. I was putting on my coat when Jessica caught my arm. Hey. Thanks for being cool about everything. Sure. I mean it. I know you probably wanted to be more involved, but you understand, right? This wedding is really important. Bradley's family has connections. The photos are going to be everywhere. Society pages. Maybe even a feature in Style Southern if Patricia can pull strings. Everything has to be perfect. And I'm not perfect enough for the photos. Don't twist my words. You're my sister. I love you. But let's be real, Sarah. You work in property management or whatever it is you do. You rent apartments. These people own hotels. Madison's fiancé is a hedge fund manager. Amber's dating a district attorney. I can't have you in the pictures looking like she stopped. Looking like what? Looking like you can't afford to be there. Your dress at Mom's birthday was from Target. I saw the tag. In wedding photos that are going to be in magazines, next to women in Valentino and Prada? Come on. Something in my chest went cold and sharp. I see. I knew you'd understand. That's why you're the best. She hugged me quickly. See you at the rehearsal dinner. Oh, and Sarah? Try to dress up a little, okay? The Ashford estate is super fancy. Like, country club fancy. Maybe borrow something from a friend. I drove home in silence. Mark tried talking to me twice, then gave up. When we got to my house, a 2-bedroom ranch I'd kept from my early investment days, he finally said, You know you don't have to go to any of this, right? She's my sister. She's treating you like help. I know. So why? Because I want to see how far she'll take it. I turned to him. And because when this is over, I want her to remember every single thing she said to me. The next 3 weeks were more of the same. Jessica posted photos from the bridal shower I wasn't invited to. She sent me a link to appropriate rehearsal dinner attire from a budget website. She called to ask if I could help set up the ceremony because you're not in the wedding party anyway, so you'll have time. I said yes to all of it. Mom called the week before the wedding. I need to ask you something, and please don't make this difficult. I was reviewing architectural plans for a new property in Savannah. What is it, Mom? Jessica wants family photos before the ceremony. Just the immediate family. You, me, Dad, her, Bradley, and his parents. But there's been a change. I waited. Patricia asked if we could maybe. She didn't want to be rude, but she suggested maybe you could step out of a few of the shots. Not all of them. Just some, the ones that might get sent to the newspapers or magazines. She thinks having too many people dilutes the focus on the bride and groom. She wants me out of my own sister's wedding photos. Not all of them, just the ones that matter. Sarah, please. Bradley's family is very well connected. If Jessica and Bradley can get featured in the right publications, it could really help their social standing. You'd still be in the family album shots. Just not the public ones. I set down my pen. Does Jessica know you're asking me this? Silence. Mom. It was her idea. But she didn't want to hurt your feelings, so she asked me to talk to you. You're so good at being understanding. That's your gift, you know? You never need to be in the spotlight. My gift. Being invisible. I'll think about it, I said. There's one more thing. The rehearsal dinner seating. Jessica looked at the chart again and realized table 8 is really visible from the head table. She's worried having you there might look odd. Like, why is the bride's adult sister at the kids' table? It might raise questions. So she's moving you to table 12. Where's table 12? The back corner. Near the kitchen entrance. It's still a lovely table. You'll be with some of Bradley's distant relatives. Older couple, very sweet. They're hard of hearing, so conversation might be limited, but I'll be there, I said and hung up. Mark found me an hour later, still sitting at my desk. You okay? I'm being moved to a table by the kitchen with a deaf elderly couple I've never met. Jesus Christ. At my own sister's rehearsal dinner. At the venue you own. At the venue I own, I agreed. Which she doesn't know. Which no one knows. Because I've spent 4 years keeping my mouth shut and building a business while everyone assumed I was barely scraping by. Maybe it's time to tell them. Not yet. I stood up. I want to see how the rehearsal dinner plays out first. I want to see exactly how far Jessica is willing to go with this. And then I smiled. And then I'm going to have a very interesting conversation with my sister. Friday evening arrived with perfect weather. 72 degrees, clear skies, golden hour lighting that made the Ashford estate look like a painting. I'd had the grounds crew work overtime all week. Every hedge trimmed, every flower bed perfect, every stone pathway swept clean. I pulled up at 5:45. Early, because Jessica had asked me to help check on last-minute details since you'll already be there and you're not getting ready with the bridesmaids. The circular driveway was already packed with luxury vehicles. BMWs, Mercedes, one Bentley that had to be Bradley's father. I parked my Honda Civic next to a Porsche, and felt like I was making a statement I didn't intend to make. The front entrance of the Ashford estate always took my breath away. Limestone columns, original oak doors restored to their 1920s glory, twin lanterns I'd found at an architectural salvage in Charleston. Through the windows, I could see the chandelier, 6 feet of crystal and gold that caught the evening light like trapped stars. I walked in and immediately spotted Amy, my events director. She was in the foyer with a clipboard, directing the catering staff. When she saw me, her eyes went wide. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Not yet. Can I help you? She asked in her professional voice. I'm with the Carter Morrison wedding party. Rehearsal dinner? Of course. Your name? Sarah Carter. She made a show of checking her list. I have you at table 12. The ballroom is straight ahead. Cocktail hour is in the garden room to the left if you'd like to start there. Thank you. I found Jessica in the garden room, holding court with her bridesmaids. She wore a white rehearsal dress that probably cost more than my car payment. When she saw me, her smile faltered. Sarah. You came. Of course. You asked me to help with details. Right. Actually, everything's under control. The venue staff has been amazing. Like, insanely professional. This place is even more gorgeous than the photos. It's beautiful, I agreed. You look nice, she said in a tone that suggested the opposite. I'd worn a simple navy dress from Nordstrom, nothing flashy. Exactly what she'd suggested, actually, but standing next to her bridesmaids in their designer cocktail dresses, I looked like I'd tried and failed to fit in. Thanks. Where do you need me? Oh, just mingle. Enjoy the cocktail hour. Dinner's at 7, she turned back to her friends, dismissing me. I got a glass of wine from the bar and wandered. The garden room was my favorite space in the estate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the rose gardens, original crown molding, restored marble fireplace. I'd spent months on this room alone, getting every detail right. Patricia and Richard held court by the fireplace, surrounded by what looked like half of Bradley's extended family. Mom and Dad stood awkwardly near the windows, holding drinks they probably wouldn't finish, looking like they wanted to disappear. I went to them. "Hey, Sarah." Mom hugged me too tight. "Isn't this place incredible?" Jessica said it usually books 2 years out, but they had a cancellation. So lucky. There had been no cancellation. Jessica booked it 8 months ago, right after the engagement. But I'd learned that correcting my family's narrative never ended well for me. "Very lucky," I said. Dad looked tired. He always looked tired lately. "How's work, honey?" "Good. Busy. Still managing those apartments?" I owned 147 residential units across 3 properties, plus the commercial venues. But to my family, I managed apartments. "Still at it," I said. "That's good. Steady work." He patted my shoulder. "Jessica says you're sitting with some relatives at dinner. That'll be nice for you. Get to know Bradley's family. Get to know the deaf elderly couple Jessica was hiding me with. Should be interesting," I said. A server appeared with appetizers. Bacon-wrapped dates, my recipe suggestion from 6 months ago. Mom and Dad each took one. I took 3 and savored them. At 7, Amy appeared in the doorway and announced dinner. People began moving toward the ballroom. I hung back, watching as the wedding party led the way, followed by both sets of parents, then the guests in order of perceived importance. I waited until nearly everyone had entered, then followed. The ballroom was stunning. We'd restored it to its original 1920s grandeur: crystal chandeliers, parquet floors, silk wallpaper. The tables were set with my best linens, arrangements of hydrangeas and roses I'd personally approved that morning. Place cards in calligraphy. The head table stretched across the front of the room, elevated on a small platform. Jessica and Bradley in the center, bridesmaids and groomsmen on either side, both sets of parents at the ends. Table 1 through 7 radiated outward, each filled with the beautiful people in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Table 12 was exactly where Mom described. Back corner, partially hidden by a pillar, 3 feet from the kitchen entrance. The older couple was already seated. They looked confused about why they were back here. I found my place card. Sarah Carter. No miss, no table number printed on it like the others. Just my name in smaller script, like an afterthought. I sat down. The couple introduced themselves as Howard and Marjorie, Bradley's great-aunt and uncle. They were sweet, both wearing hearing aids, and clearly confused about why they'd been seated in Siberia. "Usually family sits closer," Howard said loudly. "Is this a new trend?" "I think they needed room for all the wedding party," I said. Marjorie patted my hand. "You're the bride's sister, aren't you? I heard you're very practical." Such a good quality. Practical. The word people use when they can't think of anything else complimentary to say. Dinner service began at the head table. Servers brought out the meals in order of table priority. Jessica and Bradley received their filet mignons with ceremony, plates arranged like artwork. The head table was served. Then tables 1 through 7. By the time a server reached table 12, 40 minutes had passed. My steak was lukewarm. I didn't comment. Actually, it wasn't steak. I looked down at the plate. Chicken. Lemon herb chicken. The server looked mortified. "I'm so sorry. Let me get you." "It's fine," I said. I knew what had happened. Jessica had changed my order to save $25. One final little humiliation. I ate the chicken. It was good. Chef Andre knew what he was doing. Halfway through dinner, Jessica stood up with a microphone. "Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight. This venue is absolutely magical, and I can't wait for you to see it tomorrow transformed for the ceremony." Applause. Glasses raised. I want to give a special thank you to Bradley's parents for hosting this incredible dinner. Patricia and Richard, you've welcomed me into your family with open arms, and I'm so grateful. More applause. And to my parents, thank you for always supporting me, for giving me the foundation to become the woman I am today. I saw Mom wipe tears. Tomorrow is going to be perfect. Every detail has been planned to the last second. This is my dream coming true, and I get to share it with all of you, the people who matter most to Bradley and me. The people who matter most. At table 12, I didn't feel like I mattered much at all. Jessica, Sat down. Bradley stood next, giving his own speech about love and partnership and building a future together. It was sweet. Generic, but sweet. Then Patricia stood. I have something to add, if I may. Oh no. Jessica, darling, when Bradley first brought you home, I'll admit I had concerns. You came from such a different background. But you've proven yourself to be exactly the kind of woman I always hoped my son would marry. Ambitious, polished, and so graceful under pressure. Different background. The wealthy parents' way of saying poor. You've elevated yourself beyond your circumstances, Patricia continued. And that's admirable. Tomorrow, when you become a Morrison, you'll be part of a legacy of success and excellence. We're so proud to call you our daughter. Jessica was crying. Happy tears, I think. She didn't hear the condescension. Or maybe she did and didn't care because she was getting what she wanted, entry into a world she'd been locked out of her whole life. I understood that hunger. I'd felt it too. The difference was, I'd satisfied it on my own terms, quietly, without needing anyone's approval or permission. Dessert was served. A trio of miniature desserts per person. The head table first, of course. By the time it reached table 12, people at the front tables were finishing. Howard and Marjorie had given up and left, citing exhaustion. I was alone at table 12 when Amy approached. She knelt down beside my chair, pretending to check on something. This is killing me, she whispered. Watching them treat you like this. It's fine. It's not fine. Do you want me to? Not yet. I kept my voice low. Let it play out. The whole staff is losing their minds. Eric almost said something when they put you back here. I had to physically stop him. Eric was my head chef. He'd been with me since the beginning. Tell everyone to stay professional. This is still a job. Yes, ma'am. She stood up. Though for the record, your sister is. Amy. Right. Professional. She walked away, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Coffee was being served. Jessica stood again, this time walking between the tables with a microphone, thanking specific people. She stopped at table 3 to hug one of her sorority sisters. Table 5 to thank Bradley's college roommate. Table 7 to acknowledge some family friends who'd apparently given them a generous gift. She walked right past table 12 without even looking in my direction. Finally, around 9:30, people started to leave. Jessica stood at the exit with Bradley, thanking everyone personally. The bridesmaids clustered nearby, already planning their next gathering. Mom and Dad had left early. Dad wasn't feeling well. I waited until most of the guests had gone. Then I approached Jessica. Beautiful dinner, I said. Wasn't it? This place is incredible. I'm so glad we found it. I'm glad you're happy. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Sarah, I know this weekend hasn't been what you expected. But tomorrow, after the ceremony, things will be different. Once I'm married and settled, we can spend more time together. You can come over for dinners, meet our friends. It'll be better. Better than what? Than it's been. You know, with you always feeling left out or whatever. Once my life is more established, there'll be room for you in it. Room for me. In my little sister's life. How generous. I'm looking forward to it, I said. She hugged me, a real hug this time. You're a good sister. I know I don't say it enough, but I appreciate you being so understanding about everything. Not everyone would be this gracious. She had no idea. After she left with Bradley and the bridesmaids, I stood alone in the empty ballroom. The catering staff was cleaning up, moving efficiently through their closing tasks. Amy approached with an iPad. Final numbers for tonight. 68 guests, 3 over contract. Food cost per plate average of $74, including the premium open bar. Total for the evening, $42,812. Currently 15 minutes ahead of schedule for breakdown. Good, thank you, boss. She hesitated. Permission to speak freely? Always. Your sister is a piece of work. I laughed, surprised. Amy, I'm sorry, but having you sit in the back by the kitchen? Giving you chicken, when she told us last week to change your order? Making you wait for everything while she played Queen Bee? That's some next-level family dysfunction. It's complicated. It's simple. She doesn't value you. She thinks you're less than her because she doesn't know the truth. And tomorrow, When they come back for the ceremony, she paused. Are you going to tell them? Was I? I looked around the ballroom, at the business I'd built from nothing, at the staff I'd hired and trained, at the venue that would host 3 more weddings this month alone, at the success I'd created while my family thought I was barely surviving. Yes, I said. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell them everything.